Welcome to the tutorial section of this video. Here I'll teach you how to create your own Matoran using the part provided. I will also be going over some basic controls for those not familiar with Blender 3D. Those who have used Blender before can skip ahead. I'll put a stamp or something in the vid's description. Firstly, you need to actually get Blender. Now, Blender is a completely free program, no paywalls or subscriptions necessary, so it's literally just as simple as going to their website, blender.org, and downloading the latest stable version. There is, however, another way. You can also download Blender 3D through Steam, and the cool thing about doing it that way is that Steam keeps Blender automatically up to date, as Blender itself doesn't have an updater for some reason. You'd have to manually download the updates every time there is one. When opening Blender, you'll be greeted with the default scene: a cube, a camera, and a lamp. We don't need any of that, but I'll use this default scene to teach you some basic controls. I've modified the cube so that its orientation is more obvious. Let's start with navigating the viewport. To rotate the viewport, just hold down the middle mouse button and drag. To pan the viewport, hold down Shift along with the middle mouse button and drag. You can also use a numpad to navigate and snap the camera to flat angles. Numpad 1 snaps a view to direct front. Numpad 3 snaps it to the side. Numpad 7 snaps it to the top. Holding down Ctrl will snap the camera to the opposite direction, like holding down Ctrl and pressing Numpad 1 will snap the view to the back. Numpad 9 can also be used to quickly alternate between two opposing viewpoints. The numpad keys 4, 6, 8, and 2 can also be used to rotate the view. Holding down Ctrl while pressing these keys will pan the view. Numpad 5 will change the view from perspective to orthographic and back. Numpad 0 will snap the view to look through the camera. The dot key on the numpad will center the view on anything that is selected, possibly one of the most useful keys for navigation. With basic navigation out of the way, let's start with some basic manipulation. First, you need to know how to select things. While first opening up Blender, you're asked if you want to select with the left mouse button or the right mouse button. I personally have it set to the right mouse button, as that has been the default in Blender for literally more than a decade. This option can always be changed in the preferences. To select something, right-click it. To select multiple objects, hold down Shift and right-click the other items. To select all things in the scene, press A. To clear your selections, hold Alt and press A. To move something, select it and press G. Left click will place the selection, escape will cancel out what you're doing. Sometimes you don't want to move an item all over the place, but just move it over a specific axis. Directions in the scene are given in X, Y, and Z coordinates. Y being front to back, X being left to right, and Z being up and down. You can constrain your selection to move along an axis. Select an item and press G. Now that you can move it, you can press either X, Y, or Z to constrain the movement to that axis. You can also exclude an axis. Say you want to move this cube on the horizontal XY plane, but not on the Z axis. Just select it, press G to move it, then hold Shift and press Z. Now you can see that it's moving over the X and Y plane, but not on the z-axis. When moving in an item, holding Shift and pressing either X, Y, or Z will exclude that axis from the movement. To rotate something, press R. All the same rules for axes and constraints apply here. To scale something, press S, and just like with rotate, same rules apply. Here's a small tip. If you want to be precise with your manipulations, hold down Shift when you're either moving, rotating, or scaling something. That way, the action is done a lot slower, allowing for some small and sensitive adjustments. One final thing to note before we head over to creating our Matoran are modes. Modes are various workspaces in which you can make specific kinds of edits. The two most common ones are Object Mode and Edit Mode, but we'll be using Pose Mode as well. Changing modes can be done up here from the drop-down. Tab is the default key to switch between Edit and Object Mode, but I have it set to a pie menu to switch between all modes. This can be changed in Preferences. We are currently in Object Mode. In Object Mode, we can change the positions, scales, and orientations of various items in our scene, like adjusting the position of the light source, or moving the camera to a new angle, or placing various objects in positions. Edit Mode is used to model, edit, and manipulate a specific object. This is where a lot of creating is done, as it allows to extrude and shape an object. There are many ways this can be done, and there are plenty of tutorials that cover this subject, but I won't be talking about them here. Pose Mode is something specific to animation bones. There aren't any bones in this particular scene, but the Matoran base has them in order to pose and animate them. I'll show you how that's done in a moment. Now we get to the interesting part, which is incidentally also off script. So if I stutter a little more than previously, that's because I'm not reading up from anything. I thought it would be a better method of showing you how it's done, because I'm not exactly entirely sure all the things I should cover, and I hope that it comes to me as I come along. Go along. Anyway, as you see here, this is the Matoran basemesh. He's a bit of a skeleton-y looking dude. Not a lot of armor on the bones, so to speak. But that's the fun part. We get to give him all that. What you're seeing right now, besides the base mesh, all these things around it, those are the actual bones you use for posing and animating it. And you can switch to pose mode to manipulate his the positions of his arms and such, and his eyes, etc. I'll get over how to do this in more detail a little later, but first what we want to do is, of course, dress him up a little. So we go into object mode, and then we hide these bones so they're not in the way, so we can actually see our guy. And it can be done in two ways. First, the most easiest way is just to press H, hidden. To get hidden things back, you hold down Alt and you press H and you get the hidden things back. Another way is to do it here in the outliner, right? You see here the thing called Matoran bones and the little eye symbol. Yeah, clicking that will hide it, and clicking it again will unhide it. But we want to hide it for now. Excuse me. You'll notice that with the bones hidden and stuff, there are like these little circles around the lower arms, the chest area, lower legs, hands. These are separate objects called the empties that are parented to the actual animation bones that we've just hidden. And they're called hooks because we'll use these to attach armor pieces and also the Konoe to the Matoran basemesh. So let's start by giving this dude some chest armor. So we go to File, we go to Append, then we go click this button to make sure you're in the the place where everything is. We just navigate to it wherever you've saved it. This is basic navigation stuff. Then go to Armor, and I guess we can just go with Armor number 1 for now. Then inside here, the blend file, you click on Object and then Armor 1, then Append. Now it will place that object in the scene here. And it's just a matter of selecting it and moving it in position. Like so. And you can see me use the controls I've talked about before, like grabbing it with G and then constraining the axis with either X, Y, and Z. Just make sure this thing's set on the chest properly, like so. Yep, looking nice. But right now it's not attached yet. If we were to move this character, the chest piece would not move along with him. So with the chest piece selected, which you can see from the outline it has, we hold down Shift and we select the chest hook, right? We press Control P and we set the parent to the object. So the chest piece is now parented to the chest hook, right? This empty. So it will go wherever the chest hook goes. Now the chest hook is parented to the chest bone. So the chest hook will go wherever the chest bone goes. And that will then, of course, in turn, make sure that the chest piece stays in place. Now we also want to give this guy some legs. So we go again to File, Append, we go back to where all the stuff is, go to Legs. Currently only have one leg piece for the moment, but maybe we'll add 1 or 2 more. Then we go to Object, Leg 1, and Append. Then we just select the leg with right click and then place it in position someplace nice, like so. Just change view a little bit, move it on the y-axis so that it's nicely put in there, maybe a little bit higher up, right? Like so. Yeah, that looks alright. Now that is just one leg piece. We also want to have a leg piece on the other side. So what we're going to do is with this thing selected, we hold down Shift and then press D for duplicating it, and we've made our duplicate here. And then we press on X to constrain it on the X-axis, and then holding down Shift we very gently adjust it, kind of eyeballing it here to make sure that it's on the right position, and we just left click to place it. Now we need to parent these to the appropriate leg hooks as well. And it's a bit difficult to see because they're kind of hidden behind the object a little bit. But you can see a bit of it here and there. We just click the leg and then click the leg hook and Control P to Object. And then we do the same with the other side, like so. This should now make sure that the leg armor parts follow the position and movements of the legs themselves. So we want to give him some arms, or at least armor. And just like before, we go to append, we go to where all the stuff is. In this case we're looking for arms. We can grab arm number 2, and then go to object, arm number 2, and then we place it as nicely as we can onto the arm, like so. Maybe just a little bit on the z-axis downward, like so. Yeah, that looks alright. Now I want to have this arm over there in the exact same position as here, but flipped, right, mirrored. I can do that. Mirror this, duplicate and then mirror the object, right? But then it's like in this position, and then I need to like manually adjust it and all that jazz. But I don't want to do that, so I'll just Control Z out of that. Let's see if it's really gone. Yeah, it's gone. And instead, I'm going to change the position of this object's origin. Now you can see the yellow dot there is like the origin. It's where the program believes the center of this object is, right? And when you mirror it, it will mirror it on this center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure this center is over here. So it mirrors precisely over this center and comes in the other arm in the right position. You can do that by going to Object, Apply, Location. Now you can see that the center of this object is down here. And I can duplicate it, right, just like I did a moment ago. Then Object, Mirror, Global X. And you'll see it has mirrored it over the center of the object and placed it in exactly the same position as I placed the first one, but mirrored in the opposite direction. Now, just like with the chest piece and the leg pieces, we select the object, we select the hook, we Control P, parent to object. Same over here. Now, at this point, I'd like to clean up a little, because now we have like these extra objects here. They're called arm number 2, which is number 2 arm type, but then there's like the duplicate of it will be called arm number 2.001, and so forth. And same with the leg pieces. And it looks a little messy. So what I like to do is clean up a little by renaming these, and you can do that by just double-clicking on them. Press the space bar and say, well, it's the one arm on the left, so we call this one arm number 2L. And then we change this one as well. We remove the things there and then just say, well, it's on the right, so we might call it arm number R. And this one, leg 1L, and this one, leg 1R. Now I've also created like all the Matoran things, everything that's supposed to belong to Matoran, in a separate collection called Matoran. So I'd also just like to drag and drop these in the outliner to the collection, and then you can see them here where they're parented under the hooks. Now this makes it nice and cleaned up. Alright, so he's missing a face, right? He needs to have a mask, otherwise it's just gonna, I don't know, knock out on the spot, as Matoran do. So just like we did with all the chest pieces and the arm pieces and etc., we go to File, Append, go to where all the stuff is, go to the folder Konoe, and then we choose one. And I guess we can go with a female Rua. Just now, unlike previously, you shouldn't just select the one object, because this object, the mask, is parented to a bunch of animation bones so that he can like move the eyes and such. So in order to make sure that still carries over, you need to select both the object Rua and the Rua bones and append those together. Excuse me. And as you can see here it's now in the scene with both its object and its bones, right? Now we need to get it in position, so you select both the mask itself and its animation bones and just put it in a way that it looks good on the face, like a bit more on the Z-axis. So yeah, that looks good. Now you also have to parent this mask to the head hook, which is this little arrow thing here. But unlike the other objects where you can just parent the object directly to the hook, this object is already parented to the animation bones. It's the animation bones which allows it to, you know, in this case, just adjust the eyebrows and such. So if I were to parent this directly to the head hook, I would lose all the parent of the animations, and along with all the manipulations I can do with it. So with the animation bones being the parent of the mask, I can parent the animation bones themselves to the head hook. So this means now the mask is parented to the animation bones, which manipulates its shape and position, and then the animation bones are parented to the head hook, so that the mask and the animation bones rotate and stay in line with the head. Then we can test this out by unhiding the bones, selecting the main bones, and then going over to pose mode, right? And then we can rotate the head, and indeed the mask and the animation bones of the mask are following the head bone. And we can just see if the arms are parented well. Yep, they are parented nicely. And the legs, yep, parented nicely. And for some cleanup, we can drag and drop the Rua bones along with the Rua model into the Matoran collection. Oh, that's a dog in the background. Okay, now that we have our character basically set up like so, how do we pose him? What does all this mean? Well, alright. Now let's go over the bones and what they all do. This here is the Big Daddy bone. This basically has all the other bones parented to it. Changing the position of this bone will change the position of the whole character, right? It's good for when you're like want to make him walk in a direction or something, and you need to just change the position of the entire character as a whole. Well, you can do this by just simply change the position of this one bone. This yellow one here, this sort of like dot, manipulates the upper body. So if I were to change this, I can change the upper body while not changing the position of the other bones. So like if I want to make him bend through his knees, for example, crouched, I can do that, or just, you know, mess around crazy. This is done through inverse kinematics, where the outlying bones, like for the hand and for the feet, kind of are chained up with other bones that I've made invisible in the legs to make animation more, well, more easy, more automatic. Right. So these green ones in the middle here are for rotating the torso, like so, and the hips, like so. This one is for manipulating the neck. And this one is for manipulating the head. These green and red balls are pole targets. They determine the direction which the knees and the elbows are pointed in. It also determines in which direction the arm and the leg bends. Like for example, if I put these poles to the side and then make them crouch, you can see that they bend in the direction of those poles. Let's undo that for a moment. Alright. So these yellow bones, they manipulate the position of the fingers in all sorts of directions, right? Now, you don't have the controls for the other bones in the fingers, because I've set it up that bending or rotating this bone along the z-axis, which is denoted here by the little z symbol, will bend the entire finger. This is its local axis, by the way, not its global axis, because the global axis is up and down in the world, and its local axis, its local up and down, is along this blue line here. And you can rotate it on its local axis by pressing R, right? And then tapping Z twice to rotate it on its local axis. And you can see that as I rotate this one bone, all the other invisible bones in the finger rotate along with it. It makes it handier for when you want them to point or grab something, so you don't have to like manipulate each and every single bone individually. Just a bit of a time saver. Same goes with all the other fingers. You can select multiples of these bones and then rotate them on the z-axis, local z-axis, just to make sure, and then, you know, make them grab something. Now, this type of convenience is not there for the thumb, because there's only two points of manipulation for the thumb, right? And the thumb is supposed to be able to, you know, rotate freely. So you have the thumb that is basically a ball joint and you can rotate in whatever direction you want. And to rotate the top of the thumb, right, you can just press R and then Z twice and then bend it like so. Same goes for the other hand, by the way. Just select these, rotate like so. And then of course we have the eyelid things. These manipulate the eyelids and they rotate on their local x-axis, as you can see here from the red line. So you can press R and press X twice and then rotate the lower eyelid, or same with the upper eyelid, like so. And same for the other eye. Now, the eye bones themselves are invisible, and that's because they are set to automatically track these empty targets here. These are things that won't show up in the final render, but the eyes track these like sphere things. So you can go into object mode and select these spheres, then change the position of these spheres, and you can see that the eyes follow where the direction that these spheres are going. And that way you can have the character look at something specific. Now, the mask has its own set of bones specific to manipulating facial expressions and such. So we just hide the main bones for a bit, select the mask bones, and then go into pose mode. And then you can see that you can grab these bones. looks like I need to fix something over here. Whoops. But yeah, typically you can you can grab these bones and have the expressions change and such, but it looks like I need to go back and fix the weight painting on this one. Alright, so these bones allow you to give your character some basic expressions when they work, but aren't very complex. Now normally animation is done by not just by bones on the face, but also with shape keys that correct and give finer control over the expressions of a character's face. And they're usually driven by bones. So that's typically how advanced rigs are done. A combination of shape keys that manipulate the object directly, driven by animation bones. Now I didn't create any shape keys because if anyone were to modify the object itself, want to go in edit mode and change some feature on the object, well, that will completely ruin any shape keys that are there. And if you would try to use a shape key, well, then the object will then go completely ballistic. So if you want to add shape keys, there is I'll link a tutorial in the video description on the creation of shape keys for facial manipulation and such like, and also a tutorial on how to set them to be driven by bone positions. But as a basic, there aren't any shape keys on these masks, so you can only have like simple expressions as manipulatable by the bones. Again, if they work, I'll have to fix this particular mask. I mean, seriously, if all the masks that I could have chosen, I chose the one with a problem. But yeah, let's get those bones unhidden and put this Matoran gal into a nice little position. So we go into pose mode. We then position this leg, and I'll just make sure that it's only on the horizontal plane. Just put this foot over there, grab that horizontal plane, put that foot over like there. Make her knees go a little bit more down, like so, and then change the position of this so that her knees look a bit more, yeah, okay. So I mentioned earlier that there's a lot less clipping in this model, right? But clipping is still possible, so you have to be careful with making sure your poses aren't too extreme so that clipping doesn't happen. The pose was kind of extreme, no one would really stand that wide-legged. Alright, so, you, so, yeah, change the position of the chest a little bit, like so, like so. Grab the position of this arm, like so. Put that pull target a bit there. Bend her fingers to make them look a bit more relaxed and natural, like so. And kind of do the same with this arm. Just drag it down here. And drag the pull target. So, and just give this hand a bit more of a relaxed look. Maybe rotate it a bit more down like so. Yeah. Alright, well then we can have her look in a direction a little bit. Just a small careful manipulation of the neck because it has a big effect. Then rotate this one. Like so. And you can go to object mode and change the position of her eyes. Make her look a bit like so. Then in object mode we can then adjust the camera a little bit. Oh wait, one tip I want to give you for the camera. So you can be complicated and like grab the camera and rotate it and do all sorts of nonsense like that, but sometimes you find a good position, or can more easily find a good position to view the character in the viewport than you can through the camera. So there is a trick to make sure the camera follows your viewport. So first of all, press 0 to make sure you're in camera view. Make sure the camera is a bit adjusted so that it fills up the space a bit. Then here, you see this little arrow thingy? You can click that and go down to view, go to view lock, and then go to camera view. And now the camera will have like this red border around it to denote that the camera is now locked to the viewport. And then you can find a good position for the camera to be in, like so. And make sure that the view lock is turned off, because if you accidentally leave it on and then rotate to view the model from another side, then you'll grab the camera along with you. But yeah. So right now we are in object view, right? This shows all the objects in their most simple state without any real materials on them, no textures, no nothing. But you can change how it looks like by these buttons over here. Now I want to go and take a look at this character in rendered mode. Which you can do by just first turning off the bones so they're not in the way. You can click on this little sphere button and view it in rendered mode. you'll notice the colors are all over the place because we still need to edit the colors and materials themselves. But this is what it would look like in rendered view, right? And by default, the render view is set up to be in cycles, which is Blender's ray tracing renderer, right? And that is what gives you the ability to make this procedural edge grunge. It also gives far more accurate lighting, but it takes a very, very long time to actually render anything in that. Like as far as an animation goes, if you try to make an animation, it will take a very long time to render it. It will be good for simple scenes, you know, this simple character in a pose. But if your computer also can't handle that, like if you don't have a dedicated graphic card and are working mostly on integrated graphics, then that's probably going to be a problem. I'll get over how you can set up materials to use in Blender's real-time renderer in a moment. But for now, let's see how we can make this gal look more like a Matoran, you know, in cycles, the expensive looking renderer. So you can go up here to these tabs and click on shading, and in shading is where we will change how the colors and such look, but right now we're not seeing any colors. So we go into rendered view and we can take a look at the colors. Now typically you would do this in a less taxing way by going into like the look dev mode or viewport shading mode. As you can see, it is going completely ballistic, and that's because of the procedural edge grunge that I'm using. And I'll put a link down in the description of where I sourced the edge grunge node. But the way the edge grunge node works is that it uses actually I think it uses ray tracing to determine where there's an edge and apply procedural grunge, and the non-taxing mode, the viewport shading mode, doesn't have any ray tracing, so it's just gonna look completely ridiculous. It's also the same reason why this edge grunge node doesn't work in the real-time renderer Eevee, because well, it doesn't do ray tracing. Anyway, we want to make this character look like a Matoran. So we select the main torso, right? And we can start editing the colors. Down here in the shading space, you can see all the names of the colors that I've chosen, along with metal, which is like the parts, like these parts here, and the ball joint part over there, and muscle, which are like the more organic looking parts. These materials are all there already, and all you have to do to make sure these materials are the right colors is to come here and simply change them. So this is a node setup, right, that determines the look of the particular material, and this is what changes the main color, right? And currently it's set on orange, but this is going to be a Matoran, so we don't want her to be orange. We want her to be, I don't know, let's give her a nice like sandy blue color, like so. Yeah, that's the main color. And then we can change the color of the edge grunge to match over here, a bit lighter, like so, the edge wear. And there you have it. So what do these nodes actually do? Well, this one changes the main color, and this one changes the color of the edge grunge, and they're put together into this mix shader, right? The edge grunge is determined by this node here. It's going through an invert thing, right? And then the factor of, because this displays the grunge in like a black and white thing, right? A black and white values, and it's plugged into the factor of this mix shader. So everything that's black, all the black values of the edge detect, which will not be the edges, will be colored in with this color. Now the white values of this edge detect will be colored in with this color. Now this noise texture and this color ramp right here, which is plugged into the metallic and the roughness setting of this color node, right, determines the surface texture of the material. The procedural surface texture is what gives it that sort of like not so squeaky clean look, you know, the tiny little patches and stuff. And the same setup is on most of these others right here, right? So we just go over to them, go to color 1B, and then change this one to a slightly darker color, right? Just a bit darker, like so. And same with this one, the edge grunge. Maybe this one a little bit darker still, like so. Yep. And this one here is color number 2. And what shall we do for color number 2? Let's give it a nice sea green of sorts, like so. Let's saturate it. Alright, so the way I've set it up is that you have color 1, which is the main color, and then you have like color 1B, which is sort of like well, I personally use it for more sunken in areas, or areas that I'd like just have a little bit darker but still supposed to be the main color. And then color 2 is just, you know, color number 2. But you can choose how to use these colors you want yourself. Now, what if you don't like the distribution of the materials, and you want to have your own distribution? Like maybe you want to have this particular centerpiece here to be the same color as the belly piece, or you would like to have the belly piece the same color as the body piece, but have the hips, the entire hips, be the green area, right? Well, for that you have to go into edit mode. So we switch over to edit mode, and then we can select the parts that we want. Like you can select one, and then click on Control L, and then you can it basically selects all the faces, faces and vertices that are connected to the one selection you did. But you can also change how it does that, and I prefer to doing it by material. So it selects everything that has the same assigned material. So we do the same here, and with that one, and we do Control L, and it selects this whole hip piece, and we assign this to material number 2 by clicking on the material here called color 2, and then clicking Assign. And we can go to this belly part, Control L, and take color 1B and Assign. And we can get out of edit mode and look at the colors in object mode. Alright, I forgot to change the grunge color of color number 2. It's still pinkish, so we just simply do that. And there you go. Now, the other parts aren't colored in yet, or at least they don't have the colors of the main body. They're kind of like different colors still. That's easy enough to fix, since they obviously have their own materials and they bring those materials away along with them. We can simply click on these and click on this drop down menu, which lists all the materials used in this scene, and just well, select the one we want. And the ones that we used were these ones down here, right? So we want to have this one to be color 1A, and we want this one to be color 1B, like so. And then we unify the metal color, right? Because we have a lot of these useless ones. Just to regular metal, and then to regular muscle, right? Now the reason why you have all these 0.006 and 0.004 versions of all these materials is because basically all the separate objects that we just appended and stuck onto this Matoran come along with their own materials assigned to them, right? But you don't need to use them. You can just switch them over to the materials of the main body for cleanliness, for, you know, ease of use. And then all these extra unnecessary materials that these objects came along with will eventually just get automatically deleted by the program when you save the scene. Or you can, I think you can also clean them out manually somewhere. Clean up on you. So we'll just do the same we did with the other arm over here, like so. Oh, nope, no. Do it there. Come on. There. There. And there. And where is muscle? There is muscle. And maybe I want color 1B to be just a little bit darker still, just to make sure it highlights stuff just a tad bit better. Yeah, that's nice. Then we can do the same with this one here. We take color 1A, then metal. And muscle, and same with this one, la-di-da, la-di-da, and la-di-da. So I want to make sure that these sort of details on the leg piece are a slightly different color, like they have the same slightly darker color as like you see here on the feet and the hands. So to do that, I'll have to create a new material, because this one only has 3 materials. So I can just click on here, click on the plus icon, and then go to the drop down and click on color 01B. But then of course it won't automatically assign these. I'll just sort them out a little, like so. And then go into edit mode. And then like select these. And then assign. And then you can see that it made those a little bit darker. And then I'll have to do the same with this one. So, like so, sort it out, like so. And yeah, just like what I talked about in the tutorial section earlier, you just hold down Shift and you select the multiples of these faces, just like you would do in object mode when selecting. Alright, now for the chest piece. How about we make it the darker one? Yeah, that looks good. I was looking for metal. Metal. And muscle. And then we change this one, the mask, to the other color, color number 2. Now we can start changing the eye color, I think. Yeah. So what eye color do we want to give her? Now you may have noticed that this node setup is a little bit different from the other one. First of all, these aren't default principal color nodes. These are emission nodes, because you know Matoran eyes glow, and it's also like a brighter color in the middle and a darker color on the outside, which these two do, right? This one is the brighter color on the inside, and that one is the darker color on the outside. And I've mapped it using a black and white texture, put it through a color ramp, which you can manipulate yourself by dragging these sliders and changing the size of the outer and inner rings. And this mapping, again with black and white values, determines where these colors go. But the colors I want to give this little gal is perhaps some orange eyes. So we go here a bit to red, right? Light red, like so. Change this one to be pretty bright, and then to orange, like so. A bit more on the red side, just like so. Yeah, a bit more yellow, saturated for the inner light. Like so. That looks alright. But now the heart light's the wrong problem. And this is a good time to talk about appending materials. Because sometimes maybe have created a material someplace else and you want to reuse the material on this new object, right? But it's in a completely different file. And this one, well, it doesn't really have a nice looking heart light texture, unlike the other chest pieces I've created. So let's just delete that one. Just made a new material, but now what do we change it to? Well, we can go to append. We can go to any of the other chest pieces, like chest armor pieces, like number 3 or something. We can go to material, and then the material we called Heartlight. If we just append that, you can find it in the list here, Heartlight. So, and yeah, now of course we need to assign the material to the sphere, and lucky us, the sphere part has already been selected, so we just assign that, like so. And then we can start changing the colors. Now this Heartlight setup looks similar to the eyeball setup, but I want to alright, so look, the eyeball has like the glow and stuff looking very much on the surface, when that is easy for the viewer who watches this Matoran to see which direction the character is looking at, right? But for the Heartlight, I wanted to have it glow as if it has like volume to it, like there's something inside there that glows bright and it bleeds outward as it goes. For that, I had to do some finicky stuff with layer weight and manipulate the colors on the surface of the object based on the camera, the direction of the camera. In this case, the viewport also counts, and it gives this nice little depth look to it. But we want this to be orange, right, just like the eyes. So we can take a look at the eyes and see that this one has a H value of 0.046. So we can go there and go 0.046, like so, and a S value of 0.963. So we go 0.963, and for the outer part, this one has a H value of 0.006. 0.006. Oops. And the other ones are just all full out. So we just come here and just max them all out, like so. And so we have ourselves a lovely Matoran with orange eyes and a orange Heartlight. Like so. Now I would hit render. Now go to the camera view, see if it's positioned right. Maybe position the camera a little better, like so. And then hit render, but currently OBS, the recording software I'm using for this tutorial, does not like it when I'm rendering something ray traced and recording at the same time. So I won't be able to do that. Now, alright, this is all for ray tracing with the procedural edge grunge and all that, and it looks really cool, you know, very realistic in the final render. But what if your PC just isn't powerful enough to do that? Well, then you can go over to the different rendering method called Eevee. Oh, and there's the dog again. You can change render mode by going up here to this like camera thing, and then change render engine from cycles to Eevee. But as you can see, it immediately goes ballistic because the edge detect node needs ray tracing to actually work. So we can go to our shading. Well, we are actually in shading already. And then try and hopefully select a part. We can see it through all this glaring noise. And the one way to fix that is to actually just remove all the edge grunge parts. So we can, instead of connecting this through a mix node that determines the edge detection and such like, we just connect the color directly to the surface, like so. And basically you can delete this if you want. And we do that the same with this one, like so. And this one, like so. Also with metal, metal also has some edge grunge on it, like so. And there you have it. So it doesn't look as good without procedural edge grunge, but at least you don't need a super powerful computer to render this out now. And as you can see, it's also way faster in the viewport. But of course, this is all sacrificing fidelity to do it. It will not look as realistic with realistic lighting in the real-time renderer Eevee as it would do with ray tracing. But that's unfortunately a sacrifice you'll have to make if your computer is slower or you don't want to wait several hours to render out a 5-second animation. So yeah. Now, the package, right, the Project Inquilina package, also contains a whole bunch of tools and such. And you import them to the scene exactly like you did the armor pieces and the leg pieces and all the other pieces, right? And as you can see here, the hands, they have like hooks on them, just like the arm pieces and such. And you can use these hooks to parent the appended object, whether it be an, I don't know, an apple or a sword, and parent them to these hand hooks to make them follow the hand. So, alright, let's just say this female Matoran, this little Matoran, is a bit of a warrior, and we want to give her a nice big sword. So first of all, to make it easier for us, we need to make sure that she's not in a pose when we parent an object to her, because having to position something while the character is not in their standard T-pose is very annoying, and usually it's not very accurate. So we go into, first we make sure the bones aren't hidden, and we select the bones, we go into pose mode, we press A to select all the bones, and then we go to pose, clear transform, and all. And that puts the character back to her basic T-pose. We go back to object mode, we go to file, append, go up to where all the stuff is, and then we go to weapons. And we can give her a nice large two-handed sword. What do you say? Object. I forgot to name the object, so I'll have to name this. A reminder to myself. Right. The object is also, the sword is also set up to work with ray tracing, because it has edge grunge and such like. Let's just get over to shading and remove that for now. Just connect the color directly onto the output. And the sword looks a little, well, small. So all we need to do is just rotate it so that it lines up with the hand better, and then increase the size to the point where the handle looks like it fits inside the character's hand really nicely. Just grow that up to size a little bit. Then we just have to line up the sword with the hand. Well, I'm still seeing weirdness happening. It's probably because of the other thing with edge grunge. Yep, there we go. Weirdness dissipated. Let's get those Matoran bones out of the way for a sec. And line up this sword nicely. Like so. Make it short, follows the direction of the hand a little. Like so. Goody goody. Then we a shift select and the hand hook. Control P. Parent to object. Maybe manipulate the position of the sword a little bit more. And then we retrieve the Matoran bones. And go into pose mode. And then we make sure those fingers grab that sword. Selecting all of those. And then like so. Like so. Of course, adjust the thumb a little. And now she's grabbing that sword. And now we can put her in a really cool looking pose. Then posing a character, including animating a character, is just an endless series of small and precise adjustments till you finally get the look that you're going for. Maybe I need to make the handle a little bigger compared to the size of the rest of the sword, because it does look a little ridiculous, doesn't it? It's always a good idea to keep an eye out for any place that might be clipping a bit too much. You can hide a lot of clipping away with camera angles, or if it's too hidden behind an object, but just make sure that nothing is all too visible in the foreground. And yeah, there you have it. A Matoran with a sword that's way too big for her. Well, I hope that someone will find some use for this package. It's been a lot of work putting it all together. Trying to figure out the best way to do things, hoping that the community will find some use for it. Either way, I'm just putting this out here, and I'll be patiently waiting to see what you guys will do with it. But for now, well, have fun, I guess.